work time gets started on time, or nowish. Primarily because usually we go over and we have a lot to get through. So I think we should just go ahead and get started. So happy Friday the 13th, everyone. It's not, it's not every day that it's Friday the 13th. What an ominous day. Hope you're having a great one. So we're going to be going over the ongoing work by IF Labs. We're going to be highlighting a lot of the things that happened in the last month. We're also going to be talking about our future efforts, and what we're thinking of doing the short term. Again, this is, we're all on Discord. And so if you ever have any questions about some of the work that has gone in already, or some of the work that IF Labs or Foundation is focusing on now, please feel free to reach out. As always, everything we do is open source. So if you're curious about some of the work that's been going on in, let's say, previous releases, we make sure that all releases that we do are have really good descriptions and all the things that went in there. So let me just link you guys with the last release, and we'll have more people talking about everything that went in there. So with that, I'm actually going to I'm going to hand it over to Daniel to talk about the hashing algorithm, which obviously has been a huge topic for our community for a while now. And he'll go over the latest on the hashing algorithm, the voting process, and so on. So, Daniel?
Yeah, thanks, Lena. Hey, everyone. So if you haven't been following along with the hashing algorithm change, we voted almost 2 weeks ago now to which hashing algorithm is going to be Ironfish's next hashing algorithm. And the winner of that vote was a submission by Lolly Diab, who is a longtime mining developer and a community member. And the canonical name so far has been Fish Hash. So we're starting work to come up with the final spec for Fish Hash. Lolly Diab is working on that, as well as the reference implementation. That's how the hash will be, like the code in which the hash will run. So this week I've been talking to Lolly Diab, and we've been kind of trying to get a timeline from him on when the spec is going to be finished, and same with the reference implementation. But it seems like he's gotten busy with a couple other things, so he hasn't gotten back to us about an exact timeline. So we'll still try to keep prodding him on that. And then once we know that, we'll know we can estimate our timeline for getting that hashing algorithm into testnet and then finally doing a hard fork on mainnet. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, the main reason we went with this hashing algorithm change is to make the network more ASIC resistant. And we had a lot of miners who wanted that. So this will definitely help with that problem. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the changes that went into the last release as well that Elena mentioned. There's a lot of changes, and you can look at all of them in the link that she posted, but I'll just do a few highlights. So one is we're rehauling our RPC endpoints a little bit, which Raul will talk about a little later. Basically normalizing different types of structures like notes and blocks and things like that. So the RPC is a lot easier to deal with for developers. We merged in some code preparing for Ironfish's first hard fork, which will remove the negative timestamps that you might see on the block explorer. And that hard fork is coming up pretty soon. We fixed a small bug where the mempool is not prioritizing transactions that were very close to each other in fee correctly. So if you had like a 1 OR fee and a 2 OR fee transaction, those might be switched in the mempool. And we also added some logic so that when people are starting up their nodes for the first time, downloading the snapshot, they don't have to wait for it to download all at once. They can start the download and then resume the download later. So Again, there's a lot of other changes I didn't mention, but just for time's sake. But if you want to see all of them, go check out that release. And now I'll pass it off to Jason, who's going to talk about our HackerOne program.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. HackerOne program, super important because it helps reasonable security researchers and white hat people find security issues and get paid for it. I mentioned this before. We're using HackerOne. So just a little bit of information. We've processed over 50 security reports. We've done one payout for an issue that was actually fixed. We were telling people to install a package that is not owned by us. So that was actually a security issue that we did fix and put a release out. It only affected the standalone CLI wallet, so it did not affect the normal Ironfish node. But we just want to bring that to your attention. We love this program. If you are interested, you can go to HackerOne, start filing security reports, get paid. I would say we've had no what we call critical issues reported through the platform so far. So that's kind of like a P0, remote execution, de-anonymization, decryption issues, just to give you an update on the program. But yeah, if you're interested, head over to HackerOne and sign up for an account and start reporting issues if you find them and you love our project. Nice. I'm going to pass it off to Derek to talk about our amazing Node app.
Hey everybody. So the latest version of our Node app is 1.04, and we have, since we released the original 1.0 version, been focusing on a few bug fixes, and I think also the result of using the Node app for voting on the hashing algorithm gave us a good opportunity to find some bugs that were hanging around related to custom assets. So we fixed an issue that was preventing sending the hashing algorithm vote for the Node app. We fixed, finally got the SDK upgraded in the Node app so that if you're running a newer version in the CLI with the Node app, the two will be compatible. We fixed updating on Windows, we fixed snapshot downloading, fixed importing and resetting accounts, and we fixed some bugs with the contact book loading. So we've mostly been focusing on bug fixing so far and cleaning up the flow there and trying to make it easier to update in the future and keep it compatible with the CLI as well. Keep it on the same SDK version as the CLI. But we're working on a 2.0 version of the Node app, and Daniel's going to talk a little bit about that and the reason behind it.
Custom asset for each hashing algorithm option. We allowed users to send that custom asset to a certain, or we had one custom asset, sorry, and we had allowed users to send that to whichever address corresponded to their vote. And we definitely ran into some problems around custom assets, probably because custom assets was not in the spotlight when we first built the Node app. It was more just sending iron transactions. And also recently, we've been running into some issues with the Node app around people running the CLI and the Node app at the same time. And so because of both of those things, we decided to start a Node app 2.0 project where we're going to have kind of native, like full support in the UI for custom assets, as well as like better compatibility between running both the CLI and the Node app. So look out for that. I'm pretty excited for that. We already have a lot of the pages on the Node app 2.0 built, and looking forward to the rest of them. So next, for more pretty important work, I'm going to hand it off to Rohan to talk about our bridging and bridge prototype.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, so for those of you who have been here for some time, you know that the goal of Ironfish is to be a way to provide privacy for the crypto ecosystem and how we can provide privacy to other chains out there. So currently we are doing some research on what the best way to actually achieve that goal is. We are currently working on and doing some research into a prototype between Ironfish and some EVM chains. This is a project that is a big work in progress, and we aren't really sure on the direction of it yet. So the details of this are subject to change on how it'll actually be, used and operated. But stay tuned for further news on that. Next, I am going to hand it over to Elena, who's going to talk a little bit about the white paper.
All right. So the original white paper that is currently in the website is extremely outdated. I think it was written in like 2019-ish era, way before we had multi-asset support and way before we really understood how we can provide privacy to other chains. So since then, obviously, we've not only built out the node implementation, but we also ship mainnet. And so a lot of things have changed from the white paper. It was always one of those things that it was hard for us to kind of get to. But now we're definitely prioritizing it. And with Andrea's help, who's on the IF Labs team, we're able to get a newer version. So the new version of the white paper is currently not up, but it is going to be up very soon. And hopefully it'll provide all the questions that people might have of exactly how we did multi-asset and Ironfish, because it does differ from other projects out there, and very kind of tactical approaches for the higher architecture, and a little bit less about the details about the implementation. So that's coming out soon, and hopefully we can we can do some education around it, so that people understand exactly how Ironfish works today. So that is all very exciting, and hopefully we can get that out very, very soon, if not, early next week or next week. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Andrea to talk about the simulator fish tank project, and the updates that are going in there.
Yeah, thank you, Elena. So for the simulator, which has been already announced the other week, the simulator will allow us to run a small ironfish network inside a confined environment. And we plan to use this to test some major breaking changes like the upcoming hard fork. Now this simulator, the core pieces of the simulator are done. They are ready. They need to be merged, but it's working. So the majority of the work that remains to do there is to actually write the simulations for the hard fork. And yeah, that's it for the update. I will leave it to Rahul about RPC and normalization.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, from my end, so last time I mentioned that we'll be improving the developer experience with using our RPC. And our RPC is an important concept because developers agnostic of languages can use it to basically perform actions on their node and the blockchain and query the blockchain. And one of the problems that people mentioned was the responses from the RPC was not very consistent. So that is the primary thing that we look to fix in this last release. And so if you go to our documentation, and I'll post an example in the chat now, we have normalized a lot of the concepts in our RPC, like the block header, a transaction, a wallet node. And you can see those examples in our documentation, and also where those objects are used in our RPC. So that is the primary update, and there are a couple of small breaking changes related to this change that is also mentioned in the release notes. So I just want to call that out. Awesome. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about is a small change that we added to our node. you can now run the node with the no wallet flag. What that allows you to do is basically the wallet will not scan transactions. So let's say you have, and that basically allows you to like run your node faster and like kind of skip the like transaction scanning piece if you wanted to do that. So that's also a small change that we added in the previous version. So yeah, that's it from my end, and I'll pass it on to Matt to talk about the network improvements.
Thanks, Rahul. All right, so network improvements. That is kind of the next major project, one of the next major projects that we're sort of kicking off. It's going to entail basically any sort of improvement we can do around the network, the peer network. Our focus is initially going to be on some of the easier ones. Like right now, we're looking at improving the logic to choose which peer you sync from, which should introduce much faster sync times, which we hope will just, improve everybody's ability to sync. Beyond that, we're also going to we're working on fixing the address manager, which is where we store peer information that you've connected to previously. So when you restart your node, you'll connect to the network much faster. And beyond that, there's going to be a lot more, but those are just what we're working on initially while we figure out some of the bigger pieces we want to tackle. So let's, keep your eyes out for those. Those should be coming in the next few releases. And I will pass it over to Joe to talk about the wallet server.
Hey everybody. So we had a Discord update. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Dan and I, we actually provided a demo for the wallet server. I'll tell you what that is and who it's going to be used by. So basically, currently, if you want to interact with Ironfish, with an Ironfish wallet, the typical way to do that is by running a node and then directly interfacing with that node. That's kind of problematic for a couple of use cases. Let's say browser wallet or a native wallet on like a iPhone or an Android app. And so we created this intermediate layer called the wallet server, which sort of acts as a caching system and scales the data that's coming from the node in such a way that makes it compact and easy to deliver to these sort of light clients. And so we ship that, and we're actually trying to work with our first implementers at the Unstoppable Wallet team, and we'll provide updates when we actually have people consuming this. And once we, stay tuned because we may actually end up using it ourselves for some projects as well. And that's it for me. I'm going to pass it off to Elena for the foundation related updates.
All right. So for the foundation, a while back, we had a request for comment on the governance structure for Ironfish. And the reason why we did that is so that we could get opinions from all across our community about what the governance structure for Ironfish should look like, and give us more insight about some of the things that have worked in other communities or some of the things that have not worked in other communities. And one of the more thorough proposals for that actually came from Matt from Keep, and he wrote pretty thorough explanation as to what governance or what successful governance structure looks like to him. And so the deadline to submit any of the proposals was actually this 2 weeks ago, I guess, or almost 2 weeks ago on October 1st. So now until October 31st, our job is to gather, again, all the information that people have told us, either through Discourse or through Discord or through other means of communication, and kind of have this written plan for the community of, this is how we think the governance structure should look like for Ironfish long term. So we still have roughly 2 weeks to get that together and really figure out what our plan is. But just to highlight the motivations behind that, we definitely want to make sure that our governance structure is decentralized, that it has community members from Ironfish, Ethereum, and other crypto communities as well. We want to make sure that the people associated with governance for Ironfish are ones that have really high morals and really believe in privacy, and that privacy can be used for good. And so we'll, with that in mind, we'll have a governance structure plan by October 31st. So that's the update there. Now I'm going to pass it over to Kelly to talk about some of the community managers, some of the community manager kind of process that some of you might be aware about.
Hey everyone. So we are about 3 weeks into our search for new community managers or additional community managers. We are really focusing on Chinese speaking and Russian speaking because we would really like to bolster those channels, and we are really appreciative of the people who are in those channels, and we want to make sure that you are getting all the information that you need. I will be sending out, we've had a lot of applicants, and I will be sending out next steps today and Monday, but I really just wanted to take a second to thank everyone who has applied. We have such an incredible community, and we have received so many incredible applications. I'm just really impressed and thankful for this community, and excited to bring on some more people to help with the conversation.
All right, awesome. I think it's back to me. So I'll give a quick update on the grants. So a lot of our grants are currently in process. So we have 3 kind of ongoing grants currently in different stages of either the grant is already approved and people are already started to work on it, versus the approval process is still ongoing, but we've kind of verbally accepted them. We're just trying to figure out the details of the grant. And so the grantees that are currently in process is Fish Guy. So Fish Guy actually has 2 projects ongoing. One of the projects is to do an NFT launchpad. And so if you guys remember, he shipped the first version of, Oro inscriptions a while back, and he's still working and actually doing an NFT launchpad that is more user-friendly. The other project that we gave him a grant for is to do a mobile app, a browser extension app. So kind of like MetaMask version for Ironfish. So that is an ongoing effort. Then we have grants that we are reviewing and or discussing with the team from Fox Wallet as well as ZK Work. So ZK Work wants to do something like a hosted RPC point, so people can, it's kind of like if you are familiar with Alchemy or Infura in the Ethereum world, kind of bringing the same concepts to Ironfish of creating a third-party service provider that people can use and ping to get information about the chain. So that's a grant by ZK Work, and we're kind of working with them to define that a little bit more. And then the other grant that we're reviewing still is with Fox Wallet. Fox Wallet, obviously, as you guys know, is a mobile wallet that supports Ironfish. And they still don't support things like custom assets and kind of other features that we already shipped. And so the grant there is to make sure that they stay up to date with any and all feature upgrades and feature improvements that Ironfish, is going to go through. So those are the grants that we have that are top of mind. The other one is obviously Loli Diab. So Loli Diab is the mining software engineer who proposed Fish Hash, which is the accepted hashing algorithm that we'll be adopting in Ironfish. We're working with him to give him a grant to do the spec, as well as doing the reference implementation, as well as doing the GPU reference implementation for the community. So those are pretty much all ongoing things. And I think this kind of wraps up the bulk of the content that we wanted to cover, which is great because we have exactly 3 minutes before the end of this meeting. So I feel really good about the fact that this time we were on time and really succinct. So I just want to make sure that if anyone has questions from the audience, either to the foundation or to IF Labs or about any of the ongoing efforts, please ask them either in the chat or if you want to ask them verbally, feel free to come up on stage as well. We are here. Got about 2.5 minutes for any questions. I did see some questions coming in, but it feels like they were already answered in the chat as well.
I feel like a good question that I saw, maybe you can just reiterate, is it was asked, when is a GPU only mining algorithm coming? And we kind of talked about the properties of our new algorithm that would be beneficial to that. So maybe you can elaborate on that, because I think it's worth re-elaborating on.
Yeah. So the reason why we went through this whole experience of choosing a different hashing algorithm was because there was pretty significant evidence that there's specialized hardware on the hashing network for Ironfish. And so Fish Hash is an algorithm that actually does use Blake 3, but it takes kind of inspiration from ETH Hash in the sense that it has a memory cache expansion, so that as you're hashing, there's a memory requirement that makes the algorithm memory hard. And so that is basically the component that will make the hashing algorithm for Ironfish ASIC resistant. The keyword there is ASIC resistant, not like ASIC proof. Because even for ETH hash, we know that there were miners, like ASIC miners for Ethereum before the merge. But the good thing about using a memory hard algorithm like that is that ASICs were not that much more, or they didn't have that much more advantage than GPUs. The other question was, when will the white paper be updated? Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. Kelly already answered. It'll soon. Yeah, we have a rough draft already, kind of internally, and we're editing, and we're hoping to publish it quite soon. Hopefully next week. So hopefully the hashing algorithm question was kind of answered in terms of like, when will Ironfish be like more friendly towards GPUs? So it's whenever we ship the fish hash algorithm that was chosen by the community. I love that the Derek emoji is now being used as a sign of approval. All right, are there any other questions that I missed? Don't think so. Jason, are there any last words that you wanna share before we close this out?
I'll give my 1 minute because one, I'm really passionate about the project and I love all the work that the team is doing. And I always really enjoy summarizing kind of like the things you've heard, which is, if you look at what IF Labs, which is the development co, is doing, it's in 3 lanes, which I've kind of mentioned this before. On the product side, we're trying to make sure you have amazing products to use Ironfish every day, a great working Node app, eventually a mobile wallet. We already actually have a mobile wallet with Fox Wallet, but it's being expanded upon. Eventually, we'd love an official, well, not an official, but like an IF Labs developed mobile wallet. That's, our product lines. And then on the side, we have an amazing team of engineers working on the protocol, making sure you can connect to people faster, make sure you can sync from peers faster, increasing sync speeds significantly, making sure that there's stability in your peer network connections. These are all things, and also securing you from things like Eclipse attacks, which are actually really interesting that we can talk about in a future time. And then, of course, that's our protocol team are working on all those advancements to get into the node to ship to you. And then, of course, we have our third line, which is our assets team, which Rohan pointed out, researching on Bridge, because Ironfish is a privacy platform, and we want to make sure that platform can happen. Get Ethereum assets on Ironfish. That's the goal. And eventually get Ironfish on Ethereum. Those are all things that we're interested in pursuing, and the team is working in these 3 different lanes right now to accomplish each of these things that are beneficial to our community in different ways. So just really love the work that's coming out in the team. The patch notes are huge these days. The updates we're coming out are pretty great. And with the simulator, we're going to make sure we put out high quality, non-breaking changes. So just really appreciate all the work the team is doing, and I want to thank them. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. That was great. What a great note to end on. Wow. All right, everyone. Have an awesome Friday the 13th. 2 weeks before Halloween, so that's what a coincidence. Thank you all so much, and we will see you in roughly 4 weeks. And again, if you have any questions, we are always here. And so glad that you were able to join. Bye, everyone.